If you are worried that someone else does what you do better, let me put that to rest for you. They do. There is always going to be someone who does it better. There is always someone who is more skilled, has more experience, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a place for you and your business and what you do. So that's what we're going to dive into today. Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. I'm Alicia St. Germain, host of the Conscious Edge podcast and founder of the Conscious Edge, where I coach women entrepreneurs to get out of their own way so that they can make the money, the income that they want to make, and enjoy life while they do that. So if you are brand new here, we may have some new people coming on and listening to the podcast. I recently had the absolute pleasure of speaking at InvestHER Con 2025 down in Orlando, Florida. We had a blast. I love the opportunities that I get to be on stage. It is being an extrovert. And so getting into a room with 400 women and having all of that vibrant, incredible energy just feels amazing. And I always enjoy being there. It's my favorite conference. It's the one that I commit to going to every single year, no matter what. And I'm so glad that I did. So, of course, we may have some new people now who are listening to the podcast. And I want to tell you, welcome. I am so happy that you are here. We talk about all things wealth building and the human experience of doing that. So the way that you go about building your business and the emotions that we go through, the things that will make you a better leader, strategy and tactics from experts. And I usually have with me also my resident wellness expert. He hates when I say expert. I'm sorry, Jonathan. Resident wellness advocate. Jonathan Duggar, who is usually with me, but right now we are on a bit of a summer like a summer funky schedule, and he was doing some traveling. I was doing some traveling, so he is not with me today. However, so I want to say welcome. Make sure that you hit the follow button or subscribe button wherever you're listening from. If you have been here for the last year or for some amount of time, you know I love you. You are so important to the success of this podcast, and everything that I do in my business is for you. If you haven't taken a moment to leave a review, please would you do that? Because it really helps this podcast get found. It helps me spread the word to more people and give them the tools and the knowledge that will support them in creating wealth and living a joyful life. And your review makes all the difference. So please take a moment and do that as well today. Okay, so I was talking about this fear that we oftentimes have that someone else is better than us, this comparison that we oftentimes get into. And I recently went through an experience with comparison. And it did some really funny things to me, which I will share with you. It also was the foundation of the talk that I created for InvestHER Con. And the lesson that I took away from it was really powerful. And I haven't shared this with everyone yet. So when I was preparing for the talk that I was to give at InvestHER Con, they had released the speaker agenda. I was going through, I was looking to see who else was going to be there, what time I was speaking, how much time, allotting what time of day was I going to be speaking, and just really getting everything planned out. And I noticed that they had another speaker, Dr. Robin Buckley, who is awesome, by the way. And I noticed that our talks and what we were speaking about were really similar. And I don't think the creators realized it because we were talking about two different aspects of business and what we do and mindset. However, the premise under which we were talking about it was going to be really, really similar. And that intimidated me because I don't have a doctorate and she did. And so I went into this whole spiral for several weeks, worrying about whether my talk was going to be good enough. What was, were people going to think it was the same thing? Was it irrelevant? When you are in a situation where you're feeling insecure or threatened, or, not like anybody threatened me, but I was worried about how I would appear on stage to all these people. And so when you're in that worry state, it is very easy for big assumptions to come up, for fears to come up. And so then you get into some self-sabotaging behavior. So I had some procrastination coming up. I was having perfectionism coming up. And I was completely overthinking my talk. And I was grinding my teeth at night. So my jaw was really hurting and not sleeping well. Just all those things that affect us when we are feeling insecure. And so I went to my local mastermind girls that I meet with, and I was telling them, guys, I don't know what to do my talk about because I'm worried it's going to be too much like this other speaker's talk. So what do I do? And so we walked through, and one of the things that I always do when I am stuck, from years of coaching experience and coaching my clients, when you have a moment that you're feeling stuck, you can ask yourself, what am I worried about? Well, I'm worried that it's not going to be good enough. And if it's not good enough, then what? Well, then if it's not good enough, then I'm a fraud. I'm not giving value. It's not going to be, I'll be the laughing stock, all these worries or fears that came up. But just as equally worried as you can be with these worst case scenarios coming up, there's also this possibility and potential that it could be really great. Like I could, some of the suggestions that they came up with were, well, why don't you reach out to Dr. Buckley? Why don't you ask her about what she's going to put in her presentation? And then maybe you can compliment her. And have your presentation be like a next spin-off of it. And they said, or you could do a talk about this very topic, what's really coming up for you, what's holding you back. And just starting off by sharing something with the audience that I had never publicly shared before, to bring maybe a little bit of like a stop them in their tracks, have them hear this one thing and then put their phone away immediately because it was like, whoa, that's a little off kilter for Alicia to say. And so we came up with all these ideas on how to work through it, and it was really helpful, and it got me back on track so that I could create this talk. I ended up not reaching out to her, which in hindsight was a mistake. So here's one of my takeaways is when you see someone else that has something that you desire or you start comparing yourself to someone else, I think that there's a lot of value in realizing that it's your brain's way of telling you that it needs some support. So as I was looking and I was saying like, okay, I don't have a PhD. She's more credible than I am. Completely discrediting, by the way, 27 years of experience in business and coaching and the real estate experience that I bring to the table as well. So my brain was completely discounting that and hyper fixated on the fact that I did not have a PhD, never mind the year and a half that it took me to get my coaching certification and all the education and time and energy and time that I have spent coaching clients. discredited that, completely looked over that. So it's interesting the way that when you get into comparison, you look at all the ways that you're not enough and don't take credit for all the ways that you are enough. So what I ended up deciding to do, I did not reach out to her. I decided to put the talk together with my expertise, using what was real for me, my story, because nobody can do what you do the way that you do it because they aren't you. So my flavor was to do it authentically and do it in my very own way. The other decision that I made after I prepared everything was to sit through her talk and to make sure that I sat through it and knew everything that was in it. And so if there was anything that overlapped, instead of not acknowledging it, I was going to acknowledge it and support her in her talk and reference her talk, and then make adjustments to mine in the moment, if need be. And so as she kicked off, I'm sitting through it, and as she kicked off, like the very first thing we could have said, it was so funny, we could have said exactly the same thing. She stood up there and she said, "I'm worried that you're going to think I'm a fraud," which is exactly very much the same, similar worry that I was sharing at the very beginning of my presentation. So almost for the first 5 minutes or so, we could have been the same person. Now, here's the really cool thing about that is when you are vulnerable and you are open with people about your imperfections, about the worries that you have and the insecurities that you have, it makes you human. I was listening to a podcast this morning with Simon Sinek on the Diary of a CEO podcast, which is a podcast I like to regularly listen to. I get a lot of value from that podcast. And so they were talking about AI and how AI, where is there a place for AI in business and in life, and maybe where should it not replace humans? And so they were talking about this. And the thing about AI that I find interesting is that, and I think it's really true in a lot of cases, is that AI makes everything sometimes so perfect that people have become very good at spotting when something is written by AI. And I've noticed it as well. I've been playing with it in some of the things that I'm doing. And I was like, well, I sometimes have to go back and edit it because I was like, well, this is clearly AI. I wouldn't say it like that. But also, it's too perfect. And so there was a time when I used to worry about sending emails. And if you read any emails from me, I guarantee there are grammatical errors in it. It is how you know I wrote it. Because no matter what I do, no matter how many times I proofread, no matter what, there is always a mistake that I find after I have already sent it to you. So this imperfection that we see in other humans has merit and has value because it's not about getting everything right. It's about being real and about being human, and humans crave other humans. But it's our ego that wants us to be perfect. And so it's really easy to lean towards AI and things because it does sound better than you. It is better than you. And everybody knows that it's not really you when it's too good. So she stands up there and she says almost the same thing I say. And I was like, okay, cool. Yep, definitely headed in the same direction on this talk. And then I noticed about, 10 minutes in, she started to deviate and talk about something different than I was going to talk about. And so when it was my turn to get up there, I said what I was going to say, and then I referenced her. and I was saying how supportive it was and how I was so worried about making sure my presentation was good, knowing that I was going to be following this other speaker. And I thanked her for being vulnerable, for saying what she said, because it made it okay for everyone in the room to also be real and to be vulnerable. And so there was several other places where I worked into the talk, her presentation as well. And it ended up was great. Everything was awesome. It turned out so wonderful. When I got off stage, though, this was the real value for me. When you have these big assumptions that you live with, and in case you don't know what a big assumption is a hardwiring that exists in your unconscious brain that is telling you the way the world works and the way you exist in it, and it's driving your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as a result to protect you. So it doesn't always have to be, but it typically is kind of an if-then statement. If this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. And it informs how you show up in the world unconsciously, unless you are aware of it and you consciously manage your mind. And so one of the things that we do is we expose those big assumptions. But the other piece of it is we work to test those big assumptions. And when you test a big assumption, you essentially create a scenario or create an opportunity for you to be in that situation and look for a different outcome than your big assumption says should happen. So it's essentially disproving this thing that your big assumption says, if this, then that. But then we create a scenario where some other outcome can happen that would challenge your big assumption, that would have you would cast doubt on it and have you believe perhaps that it's not true. And so going into this, I have always struggled with imposter syndrome, as so many people do. This is a topic that comes up regularly in different groups that I talk to, the people that I talk to at the conference, the people I talk to in different communities for other coaches that I support. Anytime I mention like imposter syndrome or worries of feeling like a fraud, that is a very big hot button for people, which is interesting because typically I think people who actually are not qualified to do what they do and are frauds don't seem to question themselves, at least not outwardly. They don't seem to question themselves. So the fact that anybody would be questioning themselves, it just tells me how hungry people are for authenticity and how important of a value it is to be real with people and be able to, within reason, be open with people. That doesn't mean, and this is sometimes one of the things I see with vulnerability and authenticity is it doesn't mean like getting online or getting on social media and sharing like all of the mess in a way that makes it all about you. It's being willing to share your mess in a way that is supportive and helpful for other people. So oftentimes I won't share something that I've gone through until I've worked my way through it and I can find the gift in it and I can find the lesson in it that is going to support you. You're generally not going to see me show up on this podcast, online, in my emails, in a way that is needing you to prop me up or you to support me. Although people are super generous and kind and like they do that, they come up and they will say, if I share something with them, I oftentimes will get people come to me and like give me nice comments, which I truly do appreciate. But I'm also not sharing from a place where I haven't already worked through that. So I just want to clarify when you're being told to show up authentically or vulnerably, that doesn't mean share the wounds and require other people to prop you up. You get that support. If you're a leader, you get that support behind the scenes. You get that support from coaches and therapists and other people in your business who are your advisors and your support system, essentially. And your support system is not really the audience that you serve. It's other people. And so by the time you're coming to someone and you're sharing with them this real thing that happened to you, it's a wound. It's not a wound anymore. It's a scar. It's, let me share with you this very real thing that happened to me because you might relate to this. You might have this happen to you as well. And here's what I learned about it to help you shift to a different perspective, to help you move through your wound or whatever it might be. So it's always coming from a place of connection and helping to shift the listener, not needing you to fill me in any way because I've got my support team that fills my cup. So we go into this testing, right? Whenever we have a big assumption, it gets hold of us. This is this imposter syndrome that comes up for me and I have lived with. But I've done a lot of work over the years to work through that. The other thing that happens with comparison is I've learned to shift it from using someone else's success against myself to make myself not enough, to make myself, small and to degrade myself. I've learned to shift that away from that and to really look at, what are you trying to tell me I need to be prepared? So if I look at someone else as a speaker who I think has a lot of experience, that just tells me to be really prepared for what I'm going into, to be real, and not to inflate things. If something is not my wheelhouse, I should not be speaking on that. I can only speak from experience and training and the effort that I put into refining my craft. I shouldn't be, and nor should you be, speaking about things you don't know about. That's part of having humility, is knowing your value, knowing your worth, and speaking from that place and admitting and share and being honest about the things that are not your wheelhouse. So when I show up like that, when I shift to that, then I don't have to be afraid. So I get off stage and everyone got a lot of value from it. I got a lot of people coming to me and telling me how helpful the talk was. But the best part for me personally, the piece that created such an extraordinary breakthrough for me, something that I have not experienced. I have to say, I have not experienced it like this. And this is one of the things I love about how the world works and the energetic and spiritual qualities of the world, is that when you have a breakthrough that you are working to create, you are going to be given exactly what you need, the opportunity that you need to solidify that breakthrough, as long as you are looking for it and tending to it and open to it. If you are not, you're going to keep getting the opportunity over and over and over again, and it is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and more painful and uncomfortable for you until you are open to the breakthrough. But I was definitely open for this breakthrough. And so the coolest part for me was that Dr. Buckley came to me at the back of the room after the next speaker was up and I had left the stage. She immediately came to me, shook my hand to meet me. And she's like, hey, I have been in your shoes where another speaker had a very similar presentation to mine, and it is tough. And she says, and you handled that masterfully, absolutely brilliant, masterfully. And I will never forget that moment, because that was the moment for me that I claimed, like, I belong here. I have always loved to speak on stage. I love to educate. I love to do all of those things. And I have always worried about whether I was good enough to be at the table with the other speakers, with my peers. And that's uncomfortable to admit to you, for sure. That is super uncomfortable. And it's also what's real for me. And every time I admit to you or to other people publicly on stage, whatever it is real for me, no matter how uncomfortable, how much I cringe at maybe having to say that, the more it frees me from whatever it is that I'm worried about. And so I will forever remember and be forever grateful for that feedback that she didn't have to give me in any way, shape, or form. And she did. And so we ended up sitting with each other at dinner that night, had some great laughs. We see life so similarly. We're excited to stay in connection with each other, collaborate maybe on some things. She had some questions about maybe starting a podcast, which I have now experience on that. So, there's definitely an exchange of value that we can give to each other, which is so cool. And so that would be another thing that I would say. If there is someone that you worry is better than you, or is your competition, or whatever it is, my gosh, take the time to actually get to know the person. Because if I had done that ahead of time, I would never have been worried about this talk, and I would have saved myself a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of worrying, and a lot of discomfort, because she was awesome. And, of course I should expect, this is the other thing. I know this conference well, and I know the founders extremely well, and I work very closely with the founders. And I should know better than to know that anybody who is associated with this conference is a high quality, incredible person. So, I really never stopped to trust that I already put myself in the right rooms. And how often are you not trusting that you put yourself in the right rooms, surrounded by the right people? And if you're not putting yourself in the right rooms with the right people, that's work for you to do around your value system and your boundary holding. And I have done so much work to repel what isn't for me and call in what is. Of course, I would end up in a room with incredible people. That's what I curated. And how often I forget to give myself credit for that. And for you as well. Give yourself credit for whoever is around you and the people that are in your inner circle. If they are not of the caliber and quality of people that lift you up and make you feel good and support you and are just people you love to work with, that is your work to do. Because as you become more and more yourself, you're going to be surrounded by the right people, because the wrong people will be absolutely repelled by you. And it's that people pleasing and that needing to be liked and needing everyone to be okay with you that has you playing in circles that don't support you. So again, that's your work to do if you're not in those right circles. So of course she's going to be fantastic, because that is a mirror of the work that I have done in this world. Only people who are the highest quality and caliber and good-hearted people are going to be drawn to me. So we had a great conversation, and I said to my husband, I got back to the room because my kids got to come with me. We got to go to Universal and do some fun family things. We got to go to the beach, and the kids boogie boarded for the first time. And then we got to go to the conference. And I got back to the hotel room, and I said to my husband, I said, I think I'm ready to let go of my imposter syndrome. I think there's probably going to be another level. This is the thing. They always come like the new level, same devil, new level, same devil. So there's always there's this piece where it'll cycle. But for now, I said, I think I'm ready to let go of this imposter syndrome and this story that I have. And I'm making a commitment to myself, to anybody, any peer that I have that I somehow might have traditionally had some imposter syndrome around or might have made me feel insecure. I'm going to take the time to get to know them and connect with them, because what I believe is actually true is more often than not, there's an opportunity for incredible collaboration. I can learn. We can learn from each other. I have value to give and they have value to give. So we can learn from each other. We can support people together. And if anything, maybe just having other people who are playing the same game makes you feel a lot less alone. So I said this in my talk. We are not meant to compete. We are meant to connect. And so with all of that being said, I'm sending you so much love. And if Jonathan were here, he would say, be well. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe and take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.